Good morning, everybody. This morning we're here to talk about something really interesting, the Loblolly Pine Allowance. I have Tim and Elmer here with us to talk about that. How's it going this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me all about what is the Loblolly Pine Alliance. It's early.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Sure. So, and thanks for having us on, by the way, too. We really appreciate that opportunity. So the Loblolly Pine Alliance is a brand spanking new nonprofit that we formed back at the end of June, going into early July. And our sort of mantra, our call to action for this alliance really is to, encourage the community that we live in to get active and engaged and be aware of what's happening. We live in Fairview, Tennessee, part of Williamson County. We're experiencing a lot of growth fairly quickly. One of the last pockets really of the county that is seen growth, come. So we've sort of missed a lot of those other big growth spurts that have happened down the eastern part of the county, but it's happening now for us. And as residents who love our community and love where we live, too many times we see these new developments happening and nobody seems to be aware of what's going on. It's just like a shock or a surprise to us, right? We suddenly see the big trucks blazing a path in what was a pasture. And so our goal really is to say, as a community, we should have a voice. We should be able to, be engaged and understand what's happening when these things are taking place, and help make those decisions, right? To see what's going on with the development. And we were really born out of a development that was proposed and ultimately approved to go in right behind Bowie Nature Park. And if you're not familiar with Bowie Nature Park, it's 700 acres of land that has hiking trails, horse riding trails, a nature center. You just have an amazing playground. We're about to get a brand new playground soon, but it's really a unique part of this community, but also the county. If I'm not mistaken, it's the largest city park in Williamson County. It's probably one of the largest in the state as well. And really, it's just this amazing crown jewel. So we found out about this development because it was going to affect the neighborhood where Tim and I live. And we had concerns because we already suffer stormwater damage and things like that. So we decided as a neighborhood to kind of get rallied and try to understand what this development was and what impact it was going to have on us. Then we realized that it was also going to impact the park. So then we knew that this was a bigger issue than just our neighborhood. This was going to affect everybody that enjoys the park, not only in our community, but across the state. People come from all over the place to ride horses. Field track teams run cross country meets out there. Our high school.
I've been there for several track meets out there.
It's a beautiful place, and it's unique, and its topography as well. So it's kind of surrounded. It's sort of everything around it is above it. So this neighborhood development that was proposed is kind of above the park. It's also above our neighborhood, and there's just really strong concerns. There are already issues in the park with water, damage and stormwater. It's already right in the middle of the city, so protecting it is also going to be is really important. So that's kind of how we started and how we were born. We grew from just a little neighborhood group to getting people from all over the community involved, and getting in front of the board to understand and express our concerns with that development. And so after the board ultimately approved that development, we still felt we had a voice. We still had things we wanted to say, and we felt that we had got enough input and feedback from the community that there was something missing, for everyone here. And that was, having a seat at the table, being able to get engaged as a community, informed, an informed community, and help kind of dictate or understand the path that we're going to go when we grow. We have an opportunity to grow in a really smart and engaging way that's going to help keep the unique part of Fairview there. And not overdevelop and suddenly have just traffic. What we don't want is just traffic jams and just the same thing that we see happening all over, not just Williamson County, but other counties all around us. So that's really kind of where we started, and that's our goal with an organization. Tim, feel free to jump in.
Well, I mean, Elmer hit it really right on the head, but there's a very simple reason why we decided to start this, and I don't know if this is common everywhere else, but time and time again, what we would hear from the the people that live in this community is the board's going to do what the board's going to do. And they would throw up their hands, and they don't feel empowered. Time and time again, we've asked to talk to the board and talk to the people involved and have a seat at the table, which is what Elmer referenced. And we're told you do have a seat at the table. You have elected officials, and that's correct. We do have elected officials. However, they don't hear you. This has been going on since December of 2020 was when we first learned about this. And it was really just a request to rezone the 124 acres that border the park and our neighborhood. So Elmer laid out the concerns. We voiced those concerns very systematically and very organized, in a very organized fashion to the board, and time again gave them reasons why we were concerned and what to look at, and asked very, very pertinent questions. At no time did we ever hear why this was a good idea, other than the obvious, which is tax revenue for the city. So this is really a response to what happens in city government more than anything else. Now, we're in a position now where we've actually filed a complaint that we expect the city to answer. And that simply is, if you're going to play the game, you have to play by the rules. By the way, they get to write the rules. And if you don't follow your own rules, then organizations like this are going to call you out on it. And that's really what's happened. I hate using this term, but we talked about this before we came up with the name. This alliance is more of a watchdog than anything else. And it's not limited to just Fairview or Williamson County. This goes on everywhere. And so that's really what we are focused on, is giving people a voice in the community and in their city governments. That's what we're set out to do.
Now, you guys have a fundraiser to help with this alliance. Tell us about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Well, we started a GoFundMe page, and here's why. Unfortunately, and listen, most people, they have that attitude. Look, the board's going to do, or the mayor or the commissioners or whoever, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're not going to listen to us. This small neighborhood group was very, very well organized. And like I said, this started in December. The rezoning got put off until, was it May? The end of May, the second reading, it was finally.
Final reading was in May, yeah.
So we caused a lot of great concern. Here's why we started the GoFundMe page. Unfortunately, as loud as we were, no one really listens to you anymore. And this is terrible. I hate even saying this, until you take legal action and get their attention. And so the GoFundMe page really is to help support our legal efforts to further the complaint against the city for violating their own zoning ordinances. It's got nothing to do with the developer. We understand what developers are tasked to do, and we're not against growth.
Right.
But the city violated their own zoning ordinances, in our opinion. And actually, the city attorney admitted they didn't have some of the required documents. So in order for us to take the next step, unfortunately, in this day and age, it takes funds, and that's legal action. So we have representation. We filed a complaint at the end of June against the city of Fairview for violating the zoning ordinances and some other things. And so we're waiting for their response. But like anything else, it takes funds to do that. Now, what we hope to do going forward, in addition to this, is do some lobbying with the state legislation on penalties for violating zoning ordinances and or Clean Water Acts and even stormwater runoff. We don't feel the penalties are large enough to deter the violation of these penalties. And again, this isn't about developers at this point, but developers make these decisions based on dollars per square foot. So they try to do whatever they can to maximize that dollars per square foot. And that means if I get fined for violating a permit, depends on how much that costs me. Is it worth it? In most cases, and we've seen this here in Fairview, they just go ahead and pay the fine and continue to violate. Now, the reason that concerns us is once the damage is done, especially with water, it's very hard to correct if you ever correct it. Yeah. And so we have this is the 15th largest city park in the country here in Fairview. And we're concerned about what will happen. And when it does happen, what do? You can't always correct that course of action. So this money is purely for our advancement in the courts to have people answer these complaints.
Yeah. And hopefully give us an opportunity to reset the, as Tim said, we're not against development. We know there's going to be development on the property, that is in this dispute. But we should really take a time out, take a deep breath, and really understand what that impact is going to be on the park in particular. It's such an important part of the community, and we have one chance to make sure it's done correctly. There are other parcels of land around the park that have already been bought up, and they're already kind of in that pipeline waiting for development. So this is going to set that standard and that sort of precedent, if you will, for what happens around the park. So this is our chance to make sure we do it correctly and not do something that cannot be undone. That's going to forever change the nature of the park. And there'd be a shame and just a terrible thing that if that does happen, because we can't fix it. But we do have a chance to do it correctly on the front end, right? So that's the core of what we're all about and why we're doing that with the GoFundMe. Why we're doing that, this legal filing, is because the park is such a critical and important part of our community, and this development is that sort of signature thing that's going to really kind of set that standard for everything else that's happening along the way. So we're hoping that we can prevail there and also continue this advocacy for responsible and sustainable growth in our community and beyond. All across Williamson County, we know there's pressure all over the county for making sure that we're growing in a way that is is sustainable and benefits everyone across the county, right? So.
Well, you guys, thanks so much for letting us know about that. That is in a beautiful park. If you guys haven't been there, you should go check it out. And you can spend all day there, really. It's so big. Tell us where they can find more information.
Yeah, so as I said, we're a brand new organization. So we're working on a website. It's not quite ready for prime time yet, but we do have a Facebook account and Instagram account. And you can find us at either place at Loblolly Pine Alliance on Facebook or Instagram. And there's a link to our link to our GoFundMe page on either one of those places as well.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We will see you guys back later. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.